right, well, without further ado, everybody, this is Dr. Christina Blatcher from Align. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. Hi,
You're
everyone.
welcome.
Happy Friday. What stands between you and happy hour is me. So we are going to close this out, and today we're going to talk about maximizing digital workflow with the iTero scanner. Now, I will tell you, I'm a Zoom girl, so please let me know if for some reason my slides aren't advancing or anything like that. I prefer Zoom, so Teams is a little foreign to me, but we're going to have some fun with this. I am, quick little disclosure, I'm an independent consultant of Align Technology. These are my personal views and my opinions. These are what works for me in my practice. Just if you need legal advice, still consult a lawyer. Don't take legal advice from me, and please don't take any photos of my patients for HIPAA reasons. All right, so for those who don't know me, I am Dr. Christina Blocker. I am originally from Indiana. I'm a Midwest girl. I went to college at Indiana University. I then did dental school at Midwestern University just outside of Phoenix. That's where I met my husband, John. We graduated together, and then he decided to do an endo residency in the Northeast. He moved us up to Connecticut. He went to UConn. I was in a practice up there while he was in school. And then when he graduated, we relocated down to Dallas, which is where we currently are. And I've been in Texas about 5 years. Now, everything I talk about today is I'm going to share with you the secret of growing a practice through iTero. And I have a very small practice. I have 4 operatories. I have 1 part-time hygienist, 1 full-time hygienist, and then I work out of 2 columns. I have a production column and a non-production column. So I have a very small practice, but I do about 130 Invisalign cases a year in my small practice. And I'm going to share with you exactly what I did to grow as far as that goes. And we're also going to talk about restorative. I am a member of the Align Global faculty, so this is very fun for me. This is my passion. I absolutely love teaching, speaking, mentoring other doctors whenever I can. I am a board member and a fellow for the American Academy of Clear Aligners, and you can follow me on Instagram at Queen of Invisalign. What I did is I actually created an Instagram page specifically for general dentists. I wanted one spot that people could come to if they had questions on what attachment do I use here for Invisalign, or how do I use an iTero, or how do I edit a ClinCheck? And so feel free, reach out to me on Instagram. So I start all my presentations the exact same way. And I'm a big believer in positivity and positive energy. It is very important to always surround yourself with your team with positivity, because sometimes in dentistry, things get negative, we get crazy patients, and sometimes you just try to make it through the day. And so every morning in my practice, I start every day with an inspirational quote, and we start our morning huddles like that. And so I start my presentations the same way. And this one is perfect for what we're going to talk about today. It says, if you believe it will work out, you'll see opportunities. If you believe it won't, you'll see obstacles. And a lot of people, when they first purchase an iTero or when they think about getting a scanner, they think it's going to be an obstacle. They think they have to overcome this big learning challenge, but you have to see the opportunities in it or it won't work out. It's all about the energy. So what's really funny is I was asking my assistant one day, I said, hey, can you do something quick for me? Let me put this in your mouth. And was his reaction. A little knife. And this is most patients' reactions to anything like that going in their mouth. When I teach photography, I actually teach when you take facial photos, they should be up against a wall, because before I had a scanner in my office, I found both of these patient photos from my Invisalign records, and you can see all of the PVS impressions sitting in the background. And I was floored when I found these photos. I was like, these poor patients, neither one of these patients had a positive experience in my office. And so we're going to talk about how scanners replace PVS, but that is just the tiniest little bit of it. It can do so much more for your practice. And so everything we're going to talk about today comes down to this one thing. It is all about the experience. How are you going to provide a positive experience for your patients? You have to provide something that they're going to remember. And iTero is going to do just that for us. So we're going to talk about 3 types of workflows today. We're going to talk about hygiene workflow. We're going to talk about restorative workflow. And then I want to just give you a couple of little tips for case acceptance, especially when you're using your iTero to do some treatment planning. So we're going to start with hygiene. Now, when I first bought an iTero in my practice, anytime you buy something new and you tell your team members, hey guys, we're going to incorporate this. They're all like, oh my gosh, another thing that we have to incorporate in the practice. And so I'm going to share with you the story that I explained to my team members to get them on board and understand the importance behind what I was trying to do. So I am not a runner. I do not classify myself as a runner, but I do own running shoes. And I've been into running stores before. And what happens when you walk into a running store, there's usually a wall full of shoes. And most of us do not just walk up to this wall of shoes and say, I think I'll take that one. Instead, what happens is there's usually a team member and they say, I want to see you walk or run on a treadmill. Then they're going to record what your feet are doing. And then they'll show it to you. And I've had this done to me. They said, Christina, your ankles are turning like this. This is what's happening to your arches. When your feet hit the ground, this is what it looks like. And then they said to me, they said, we're going to recommend a specific shoe that's going to counteract those ankles from turning, and it's going to prevent you from getting arthritis. And I saw this and I said, I don't want arthritis. I don't want future ankle and knee issues. And so I dropped $200 on a pair of running shoes because I understood the importance. I understood the value behind it. So everything that we're going to talk about when it comes to iTero is going to be about preventing complications. A lot of people think iTero is just for replacing impression material, but there are so many educational features that are in the iTero that we're going to talk about to help educate our patients. I want to tell my patients what their bite looks like. I want to show them areas of fractures. I want to tell them things that will help prevent having future issues. I genuinely tell my patients, I don't want you to spend thousands of dollars on root canals and crowns when teeth break. And so we use our iTero to educate in hygiene as just part of our routine hygiene visit. We remember 85 to 90% of what we see, but less than 15% of what we hear. So think about this, 15% of what you hear, that's all you retain. Everything else is gone. And so you have to show patients what's going on in their mouth in order to be able to make an impact with them. They're not going to remember it if you just tell them, oh, you have some fracture lines, you have some recession. So let's talk about hygiene for a second. In my practice, this can be a new patient or an existing patient. If it's a new patient, I give them an hour and a half. If it's existing, they're 1 hour cleanings. The nice thing about hygiene is these patients already usually have a relationship with you. They already trust you and they're coming to you every 6 months. However, in hygiene, patients are probably not coming to you thinking that they're going to leave with Invisalign treatment today. And so when we start talking about Invisalign from our iTero workflows, they're not going to be expecting it when we bring it up. And so the biggest thing about using iTero in hygiene is going to be about education. Patients need to know that we care. Now, I will be honest with you. I used to go into hygiene and I used to look for 3 main things. I used to look for decay, I used to look for perio, and I used to look for restorative treatment. That was it. And that's how I lived my life for several years. And then I realized that there's a whole list of things that we see every single day in hygiene that can ultimately lead us to having a conversation about incorporating Invisalign. And this is where iTero is going to come into play. So first one is abfractions. I used to see abfractions every day and I would say, you know what? Let's do a buccal composite. And I would tell a patient, we can do that right now and it's going to be super easy. I don't have to numb you and that's it. But what happens is a lot of us forget that a true abfraction is actually an occlusion issue. If you have a tooth that is biting down and has any horizontal forces, it's going to cause that tooth to flex. And when that tooth flexes, that is what causes an abfraction. It is not from hard toothbrushing. Don't let anybody tell you that. But I will see an abfraction now, and it will be a red flag to me. Something's going on with their bite. We need to look at the iTero, and we need to have a discussion with our patients. And a lot of times it will lead us to having an Invisalign conversation. I personally have put a buccal composite in one of these, and then 6 months later, it pops out and I get to do another one for free. And then I drill a little bit deeper. Patient develops now sensitivity. All of a sudden they need a root canal and a buildup and a crown. And the patient just dropped like $5,000 on one tooth where they could have spent that on maybe Invisalign treatment and prevented that from ever happening. So abfractions is a big one. We also will look in hygiene and we'll look at our iTero scan for wear. I used to slap night guards on every single patient. And I now have the understanding that I want to not just address the symptoms. I don't want to put band-aids on things. I want to address the actual cause behind why somebody gets wear. Recession. Recession is one of those things that's very easy to diagnose if you have perio. That's easy, they go hand in hand. But what happens when you have a perfectly healthy patient that has recession? A lot of times we forget that recession can come with a heavy bite, and we're going to show you how we use our iTero to evaluate that. Traumatic occlusion is another one. Anytime I see a fracture around an amalgam or any fracture in general, that's going to give me a red flag. Something is existing that we need to talk about on our iTero, and these usually lead to Invisalign conversations. Crowding, same thing. I actually have done some of my own cleanings this year, and anytime I have a patient that's crowding, it's not a fun cleaning for me, and it's not a fun cleaning for the patient. And so anytime I see crowding, I actually ask the patient, I say, "Hey, does this area, like, is it hard to keep this area clean?" And the patients all say yes. And so that can lead us to having a conversation. And then even airway, even if you haven't dove into airway yet, all I really want you to know is the more that you can expand an arch, the more room you're going to give for somebody's tongue. And so airway, as we know, can affect somebody's overall health. And so there's all these things that we see every day in hygiene that can ultimately lead us to having a conversation maybe about Invisalign, but we will use our iTero to get there. So one of the things that I do teach when it comes to looking at an iTero scan is this model, and it stands for the PCS model. It stands for problem, consequence, solution. This is just an order of talking. And I had one doctor tell me in Tampa, Florida one time that he changed nothing else in his practice except for this one thing. And he started seeing so much production coming out of hygiene, restorative, Invisalign, all sorts of things. So here's what you do first. You identify the problem first. So let's say you look at an iTero scan and you see a fracture, maybe a chipped front tooth. So you can say, "Hey, you have a chipped front tooth." Now, the next thing we do is we show them the consequence. And we will tell them, if you do nothing about this chipped front tooth, especially if it's in regards to the bite, you're likely going to wind up chipping and fracturing more of these front teeth to the point that maybe you need a root canal and a crown on an expensive dental treatment. And then I tell patients, I want to prevent that from happening to you. I want to prevent you from spending more money on chipping and broken teeth by, let's actually look at your bite and let's take your teeth out of trauma. And the way we're going to do that is actually through Invisalign. So that's the solution. Problem, consequence, solution. I use this all the time in hygiene, especially even if I have decay. I used to say, "Hey, you need a filling on number 13." And now I will say, "You have a cavity. If you don't do anything about this cavity, it will likely turn into a root canal. And then you got to go see my husband." So let me prevent that from happening to you by doing a filling. Problem, consequence, solution. It just builds the value in what you're talking about. So let me share with you my personal story around iTero. I am nothing special. I'm a normal GP. I hate MOD fillings. I am a normal general dentist. And one day when I looked at the iTero, I realized that there were so many features and resources that are in the iTero for education. We can educate patients on their bite with the viewer tab or the occlusogram. We can show them areas that are hitting heavy. Those will show up in red. I never want to see red on front teeth, and I don't want to see a ton of red on back teeth. We can educate them on changes over time. So if you have multiple scans on somebody, you can see actually change over a period of time. And truly, I see changes in as short as 6 months. And so sometimes that's all people need to see to understand that they really need to do something about this because we're progressing and things are getting worse. We can educate patients on decay with iTero. We can look at interproximal decay with what's called the NIRI technology. This is infrared caries detection. You can see cavities interproximally, and they show up opposite of a bite wing, and so it'll show up as a white spot. We can educate them on Invisalign. We can actually show them their before and after with our outcome simulator and with our new iTero's Outcome Simulator Pro. And if somebody is in Invisalign treatment, we have what's called a progress assessment. We can evaluate how they are tracking. So I did a demo with an iTero, just like a lot of you may have done demos, and I saw that there's so many different features and resources. And so I had this idea, I had this thought, and I said, okay, if iTero is that good for educating our patients, then why are people only scanning the people interested in Invisalign? Or why are we only using it for restorative? I had this light bulb moment that I wanted to implement scanning into hygiene as part of my routine hygiene visit. And that's exactly what we did. We introduced our iTero as a complementary smile assessment to evaluate the bite. We do not introduce it as an Invisalign scanner. It's not that. And we truly scan 100% of our hygiene patients every 6 months. And what we do with those hygiene patients is we show them clinical things. We show them their bite. We look at fractures. We look at recession. We look at all the things. And we lead us to have conversations. We can have conversations about Invisalign. We can have conversations about restorative treatment. There's also another feature on iTero that's called the case assessment report. So if you are an Invisalign provider, what I would encourage you to do is to run this on somebody when you do talk about Invisalign, because it will allow you to see the predictability of the case. Now, this is paired with the Invisalign Go software. So for those who don't know, Invisalign Go is up to 20 aligners. So that's 20 weeks or less. And it treats second premolar to second premolar. And it mostly focuses on easy, predictable movements. And so if you take a scan of somebody and then run this through the case assessment, you can put in your chief complaint. So maybe it's crowding. And within a couple of seconds, it will tell you, can this case be done with Invisalign Go? And if it can, it'll show up as all green, easy movements. And so this actually gives us a chance to present Invisalign treatment plans with confidence, because we can say, hey, you know what? If you're all easy movements, you're going to be 6 months or less. If it comes back with one difficult movement, it could still be done in 6 months or less, but that difficult movement may just not express fully. And if it has many difficult movements, it's still an Invisalign case. It just might need to be what's called a comprehensive case. And so I actually utilize this to see the predictability of the cases when I get into treatment planning. So it helps me and it helps my team learn what's an easy case, what's a hard case. So let me recap this idea for you. I call this a smile assessment. You can call it whatever you want, a dental oral health scan, a wellness scan, but I call it a complementary smile assessment to evaluate the bite. We do not introduce our iTero as an Invisalign scanner. It is not that. We incorporate it into every hygiene patient. We scan every patient. It's just part of our routine visit now. That viewer tab in the Occlusogram, that's your best friend. Rely on that. A lot of providers out there are nervous to talk about Invisalign because they tell me, they say, I don't want to offend somebody. Like, I don't want to tell somebody, you have crooked teeth. Would you like to fix them? And you don't ever have to worry about that when you talk about Invisalign from a clinical standpoint. It's all clinical. We want to take your teeth out of trauma. We want to fix bite issues, any areas that are hitting heavy, any areas that have fractions, or we want to fix them. So once you show it to somebody, people get it. And a lot of people will say, what do I have to do? We will then show them the outcome simulator. I always have models in every single room so patients can touch them and play with them and get patients excited. Anytime that you treatment plan anything, whether it's Invisalign or restorative, you have to be the one to get the patient excited, because if you don't, they will never jump on board. And so I truly tell people that this is life-changing, and I've seen it. I've seen it happen so many times in front of me, even for the clinical reasons. I've seen people who used to wake up with migraines every single day, and ever since they went through treatment, they're gone. I've seen people with jaw issues, popping, clicking. They went through treatment and it's completely resolved. And so this does work from a clinical standpoint. And I always love to see my team members showing what they see on scans and educating our patients, because it really makes an impact in your practice. Now, I do want to share with you 3 pieces of pushback that I got from team members, because anytime you introduce something new, again, team members, you got to get them on board. First thing is excitement. I did tell my team, I said, if we can do this, if we can scan every hygiene patient, it's going to change our lives. It's going to change the practice. When the practice does well, we all do well. But the first piece of pushback I get is, there's no time. We don't have any time to do this. My doctor already makes me do all this other crap, and I just don't have time. I have to chart, I have to x-rays, I have to take photos. And so what I will tell you, and I will tell team members this, is number one, you're the MVPs. We can't live without our team members. We really have to encourage them. But number two, the more you practice, the better you will get. I remember the first time I ever picked up a scanner, and it was weird. It was foreign. I didn't know how to use my arms. I didn't know where to put my elbows. It was awkward. But the more that you do it, the better you get. And so what I do is I have a whiteboard that has everyone's scan times on there, and I keep track of all my team members, and they like to have friendly little competitions with each other. And what I do is I do incentivize them to get faster at scanning. So starting at 4 minutes and 59 seconds, and the blue numbers there, those are benchmarks. And every 15 seconds from there, if they can hit one of those, they get a reward from me. They get an incentive. And every 15 seconds from there, they get another one and then another one. And so people who get really fast at scanning, they're getting rewarded in my practice very well. Now, my hygienist scan right around 2 minutes at this point. But I like to incentivize on iTero scan times because I know the faster somebody can scan, that means more patients are getting scanned. And when more patients get scanned, we're getting more Invisalign treatment. We're also going to get more restorative treatment. And so for me, anybody can get good at this. You just have to push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. So here's what a scan looks like. We go occlusal, lingual, buccal. This is the fastest scan we've ever done, but you go lower, upper, and then we get the bite. Now, workflows. A lot of people ask me, well, when is the scan done? Where is it in your appointment? Me personally, I like scans of clean teeth. And so my hygienist will usually do their x-rays charting, their prophy, and then they will do a scan. Then they come and get me for an exam. And I'm like most doctors, I don't jump into a hygiene room right away. So it gives them a few moments to show them what they see. They're going to show them their viewer tab on their Occlusogram. And if they talk about maybe some alignment things, they can go into their outcome simulator. Now, I know offices that like to get the scan right at the beginning. Let's get it done so then we have time to talk about it. I also know offices that have made their like pano room into a scan room. And so an assistant will scan somebody and then pass them off to the hygienist. You have to figure out what's going to work for your practice. Now, I want to share with you 3 examples of patients that came into hygiene and the conversations and the verbiage that we used. So this guy, before I had an iTero, every Monday morning, I would see this patient's name on the schedule for an emergency. And it would usually be broken filling, broken crown, broken implant crown. Everything was breaking every week, something new. And so when I got an iTero, I said, please let me scan you. I need to see what's happening. And a little tip here too is anytime that you have an emergency patient, most of the time when you have an emergency patient, you usually just take a bite wing, a PA, and look at that one tooth. But sometimes we miss the bigger picture. And so now I actually scan all of my emergency patients. But let's go back to this guy. So this is what his bite looked like. And he's hitting red, heavy, everywhere in the front. He's hitting on his papilla. I told him and I said, hey, if we do nothing, you're likely going to fracture off some of those lower front teeth. And when they fracture, I don't know what that means. It might be a filling, it might be a crown, root canal maybe. I've even seen teeth fracture off at gum lines before, and then you have to do an implant. And so I said, let me prevent that from happening to you. Let me take your teeth out of trauma. Let's align your bite. And the way we're going to do that is through Invisalign. And so this patient actually saw the value and closed on Invisalign on the spot. Second example is this one. This one hits close to home. So this is my husband, and he's a dentist, and he knows exactly what I believe in. And so we scanned him in hygiene, and I saw he was hitting a little bit heavy in the front. And I was like, yeah, well, if I need an extra Invisalign case at the end of the year, I'll do Invisalign on you. And what happened is in February of 2020, right before COVID, I was in Florida at a faculty meeting, and he called me and he said, I am so mad at you. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? Why? What did I do? And he said, I just broke my front tooth and it's your fault because you haven't done Invisalign on me yet. I was hitting heavy on that tooth and now it's broken. And I was like, okay, calm down. It's going to be fine. It's just a tooth. Nobody died. I said, I will come home and I will fix it. So I came home and I fixed his chipped front tooth. We went home for dinner that night and he broke it again. And so in March of 2020, my office was completely shut down. We had to go in, turn the lights on. I put attachments on him myself, but he got Invisalign treatment. But why do I share this with you? Because a lot of people think this isn't that common. But what I will tell you is you have to start thinking about it a little bit differently. Look at the clinical signs, and you're going to start to see it on everybody. This could be happening to your own spouse. This could be happening to yourself. We truly need to change the way we think about it, and we're going to see Invisalign on every single patient, but we use our iTero to do that. Last example is this one. This guy, we have lots of these in my practice. They say, lady, clean my teeth and let me go. And clearly this patient has some recession. So we scanned him, and this is what his scan looks like. And as you can see, we don't want red spots in the front. And I told this patient, if you do nothing, if you keep biting on your teeth like this, you've already got recession. I can guarantee you it's going to get worse. And as we know, if recession gets worse, it could lead to many more complications down the road. And so I told him, I said, I really want to prevent your recession from getting worse. So let me take these teeth out of trauma and align your bite. And he understood the clinical side of it, and he closed on Invisalign on the spot. But our iTero helped us get there. So the second piece of pushback I get from team members or from other offices is they say, okay, Christina, I have 1 iTero and 4 hygienists. How is that going to work? And I have restorative to do. So one of my favorite features about iTero are the wheels. You can just roll it around anywhere, or the newer iTeros, you can pick them up and take off with them. I do not have to have an iTero in the room to have a conversation. You can utilize the website called myitero.com. Literally type in myitero.com and it will let you log in the same way you would log in on your scanner. And now you can pull up the viewer tab. You can pull up Outcome Simulator and you can have conversations with your patients without the scanner being in the room. So what we will do is we'll scan somebody and we'll pass it off to the next person. And I've even done virtual consults. I've shared screens and showed patients their bite over Zoom. You can utilize this in so many different ways and make it possible. So one of the newest features comes with the iTero 5D, and this actually created even an additional layer to all the education that we do, and this is the NIRI technology. This is the infrared caries detection technology. You can detect interproximal decay, and it shows up as a white spot. And so now we educate our patients on everything already that we can see, but now we can educate things on things that we don't necessarily see from the human eye. We can detect this sometimes even before an x-ray will pick it up. And I will tell you, I've used caries detection technologies in the past, and some of them I was like, yeah, they're okay, and some not so great. But this is amazing. I have used this on every single one of my patients, and anything that I've actually diagnosed and drilled into, it's there 100% of the time. And so now I actually scan all of our kiddos too, because kiddos, bite wings on a child is not fun. Not fun for them, not fun for us. You either can't get one or the one you get is just not great. And so now we scan all of our kids and we can actually detect cavities on kids that maybe couldn't be found on a bite wing. And so we use that in every aspect. The other thing about the iTeros is anything that you scan turns into an intraoral photo. So what you can do is you can go along and you can discover what you see here. We can look at our NIRI, which is the view on the top, and we can look at our intraoral photo, which is our view on the bottom. And what you can do is you can actually take screenshots and extract these photos and put them into your dental software. So all 4 of these came from iTero. You can see fractured fillings, fractures around amalgam, staining, you can see decay, and I can save them right into my patient's chart. And so finally, for once, I actually took something away from my hygienist plate. They don't take intraoral photos anymore because every single patient gets an iTero scan. And with every iTero scan, we can save these photos into our patient's documents. The other person who was truly changed by this was actually my office manager. I accept a lot of PPO insurance, and in the past, we would get insurance denials for things because we didn't have an intraoral photo. And now my office manager can actually take a screenshot from the iTero, draw circles, arrows, write notes on it, and send it into insurance claims. And so this is huge for us. So I just want to show you kind of a sample of what I would do when I would be discovering things with my patients. So we have an iTero scan, and we can take this magnifying glass that's in our viewer tab, and we just kind of go along and we look at the photos, or not the photos, we look at the scan with the patients, and we can stop and we can educate them. And honestly, I use this as a discovery tool. And a lot of times patients will point things out and they'll say, what's that? What is going on there? And we actually can have a discussion. Now, what I love about this is it really builds the trust with your patients. They can see it. This is their mouth. This is what's happening to them. And now it's not just you saying, hey, you've got a wear pattern, you have recession, you can physically show it to them and they will understand it. So in this case, I believe I get over to this premolar here and I've got a little fracture line starting. And this is a virgin tooth. And so I wanted to take a screenshot. I clicked the little camera. I took a screenshot of this for my patient. And now I can actually write notes. I can draw circles around it. I can draw arrows, whatever I want to do. And then you can save this right into your chart. You can just press keep annotations and then you can download it from anywhere and put it right into your patient's chart. So this technology is so powerful for education and for restorative treatment plans and Invisalign treatment plans because I honestly can't live without it. If you do take one of these screenshots, here's how you download them. You just go into myiTero.com, pull up the scan that you want, and click the button that says download screenshots. And then it'll download to your computer, and you can attach them to insurance claims. You can put them into your software, whatever you need to do. So the last thing we're going to talk about in this section is going to be time lapse. Now, time lapse is something that I heavily rely on if we have multiple scans. You can actually see changes over a period of time. And so what you'll do is you'll go into your patient and you'll select the scans that you want to compare. Then you'll get an image that looks like this. Anything that's red, orange, or yellow means you've had change. We're going to take our magnifying glass over the top, and in the top right-hand corner, you're going to see two images, and they're going to toggle back and forth between each other. And in this scan, you can actually see that we saw significant changes in not only hard tissue, but soft tissue as well. We see abfractions starting. We also see recessions starting. So maybe you had a conversation with this patient six months ago. Maybe you educated them on their bite and their heavy areas, and you talked about Invisalign, and they were like, nah, I'm good. Now, 6 months later, we're seeing changes. And so these are the patients that I truly tell them, I say, hey, we're seeing this get worse in a very short period of time. Please, I want to prevent this from progressing. We need to talk about how your teeth are aligned and fixing your bite. And sometimes that's all people need to see. I've had patients have 7 scans before, and now they're ready to actually do something. And so time lapse is very powerful. The other thing I love it is for all my Invisalign patients. Anytime you finish an Invisalign patient, I always run a time lapse on them because I want to see what changes we've had. In this patient, you could see he started with unhealthy, puffy gums. And actually, by the end of his treatment, he had perfectly healthy gums. So even though alignment was what he was going for, we actually saw a clinical outcome as well. He had much better oral hygiene, and his gingiva became healthier than ever before. So the last piece of pushback that I get from scanning and hygiene is this. People ask me, well, how do you go from nobody yesterday to everybody tomorrow? And I tell you, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes about a month. I've developed this roadmap, and it takes about 4 weeks of really like putting your effort into it and saying, okay, we're going to do this. In the first week, the goal is just 2 people in a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Just get to that viewer tab, start having some of these educational conversations. Don't worry about the time. 10 minutes, that's perfect for the first week. The second week, we bump up to 4 scans in a day. So 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, viewer, and then if you have time, get to that outcome simulator, and the goal is to hit 7 minutes. Week 3, we stay at 7 minutes, but we bump it up to 6 scans. And then by week 4, we are at 8 scans a day in my office. That's everybody. And getting to the viewer and outcome simulator. And the goal is to hit 5 minutes. That's considered a fast scan. I keep gift cards in my office drawer to like Chick-fil-A, Target, Starbucks. And if anybody that can hit a 5-minute scan, I hand them a gift card on the spot. And what that does is it actually positively reinforces them. And then their friends see them getting gift cards and they're like, I want a gift card too. And so it forces my team to kind of get motivated and get fast at scanning. So here are some of the types of conversations and verbiage that I have. My favorite thing to say is I say the words, I'm worried. I usually will say, I'm worried about your recession. I'm worried about your bite. I'm worried about your fractures. When you say I'm worried, it puts emotion behind it. And no patient's ever going to come at you and say, oh, you're just selling Invisalign treatment, because you're not. You genuinely care about their oral health and their treatment. And so I always use the words, I'm worried. I talk about how teeth are in trauma. We obviously go over recession, wear, abfractions, airway, gum health. There's so many different things that we see every day that we can talk about. Now, I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I don't want you to say, oh my gosh, I have to go over all these different things. Focus on one thing. Just that's it. Like maybe somebody has a bunch of abfractions. Focus on that, educate them on that. If it doesn't click with them, then maybe next time let's talk about something different. Don't worry about talking about every last little thing. So if you learn nothing else from today, here's what I want you to learn. Hygiene is where your opportunity lies the most. These people are already in your practice, and utilizing iTero in hygiene is going to get you both restorative treatment plans and Invisalign treatment plans. And that's the secret to how I grew my practice just in 2019. It just happened a few years ago. I implemented hygiene scanning and different types of conversations, and that's how I do 130 Invisalign cases a year in my small 4-op practice. They all come from hygiene. So that was our hygiene workflow. Biggest thing is education. Next thing we're going to cover is restorative. So iTero is a fantastic restorative scanner. I use it for everything when it comes to restorative. Veneers, crowns, implant crowns, partials, flippers, night guards, anything you can think of, we can do it with iTero. I've never had a remake for a fit. And I've worked with other scanners. I'll tell you, I've worked with several other scanners in the past, and I was nervous when I got my iTero that my restorative wasn't going to be the same. But I will tell you, it's amazing. I can trust it, and the outcomes are phenomenal. I will do big cases, small cases. iTero picks up so much data and in such a good, precise amount that you don't have to worry about finish lines. Your lab will get it, and you will be able to never have a fit issue. I will tell you, I drop in crowns so fast. My deliveries are 5 minutes, and we rarely set out hand pieces because we rarely have to adjust anything. So if you want to scan for restorative, the scan is very simple. You just work on getting the prep, and then usually I'll get up and walk away, and my assistants can take the remaining scans. But here's a scan of the prep, and we just takes a couple of seconds just to make sure we get the margins. Now, in posterior teeth, when I'm not doing a cosmetic case, I actually usually don't pack cord, and the iTero can pick up my margins, and it's very powerful. I want to show you one case that is the comprehensive thought behind utilizing iTero in hygiene, utilizing iTero for restorative, and for Invisalign. So this patient actually came to me, and he wanted a bunch of veneers across the front. And if you've ever done a bunch of veneers across the front, and then all of a sudden one pops off, and you then look at the bite and you're like, oh shoot, I should have looked at this patient's bite beforehand. So this patient, what we decided to do is we put him into Invisalign. But before we did that, we looked at his iTero scan. And this is his scan. We can actually see that he's hitting edge to edge on the anterior teeth. And I told him, I said, if you continue on like this, you can already see the wear patterns on his anterior teeth. And what I told him is, I said, you're going to fracture off some of those teeth. So I said, we need to get those teeth out of trauma. So we put him through Invisalign, and this is what he looked like the day he finished Invisalign. So we left some spaces around things for restorative reasons. And he told me, he was like, you know, I look worse now, right? And I was like, I know, but just believe in it. It's going to be fine. This was his iTero scan the day that we finished Invisalign. So as you can see, we've got those teeth out of trauma. We got everything nice and even, and he felt better as well. This was his preps. We decided to do a bridge and a couple of crowns. We utilized our lab to give us a digital treatment plan. So what we did is we digitally treatment planned everything, and they actually sent me a temporary matrix so that I could actually make the temporary matrix off of the digital treatment plan. And in this picture, the top is his before, the middle is his digital treatment plan, and the bottom is actually his permanent restorations after. So everything was done digitally through iTero, with education, with Invisalign, and then with restorative. This was his restorative outcome. So before and after, he looked pretty phenomenal. And I never have to worry about a crown popping off or a veneer coming off because I know that his bite is in the correct position. Another patient here is this lady. Again, she came to me wanting veneers. And I told her, I said, let me look at your scan. And we looked at her bite, and this is what her bite looks like. She is hitting super heavy on one side. And so her bite is unbalanced. And I told her, I said, it's like walking around on one knee. You're going to need a knee replacement at some point. And again, I don't want to see a heavy bite in the front. What we can see is if you can see the linguals of the upper incisors, you can actually see the outline of the pulp chambers. If I were to put a crown on this tooth, I would guarantee her to be a root canal. And at that point, when I would reduce the tooth structure, I would need a post and core, and then I would pray to God that my restoration would actually hold on. And so I told her we need to do something about her bite. So this was her Invisalign treatment plan. We actually programmed to open her vertical with Invisalign, and we programmed some more space for overjet, so then I don't have to reduce her linguals at all. So let's talk about return on investment. A lot of people, when they think about a scanner, they think, dang, it's expensive. And I will tell you, it is worth every penny, because when I started utilizing the iTero as far as my digital workflow, I use it in hygiene for education, I use it for restorative treatment, and we use it obviously for Invisalign. I started seeing so much production coming out of hygiene specifically when I started utilizing it that the scanner paid for itself in the first 2 months. And so there's a huge return on investment when it comes to iTero. So let me share with you some reasons why I love the iTero, and specifically I love the 5D and 5D Plus. You can use an intraoral camera from anywhere on the scan. So anything that you scan turns into an intraoral photo, and you can extract and save those photos into your software. The NIRI technology is the infrared caries detection. You can find lesions sooner, and sooner diagnosis to me means less expensive dental treatment down the road. So easy with kids. We know it's hard to get bite wings on kids, and so it's very easy to scan them and have that conversation. The iTero 5D, 5D Plus has barrier sleeves, and they really have helped with post-COVID awareness. And then we do use this for hygiene education. And if you do have a scan of somebody with dirty teeth, calculus will light up. It will glow, and it's amazing because you can show patients and educate them on oral hygiene. And then artificial intelligence. These are available on all the scanners, but you don't have to clean up your scans. You don't have to waste time like erasing things. It has some amazing artificial intelligence that makes it a really nice scan that can go to your lab. So there's so many different features on why I love iTero. So we just talked hygiene, and then we talked restorative. And with the time that I have left, I do want to share with you just some of my personal favorite things on case acceptance, because I feel like we do use our iTero specifically to get better case acceptance. There are 6 reasons why people say no to treatment plans. Number 1, they don't feel a connection. I will never present a treatment plan if a patient doesn't have a connection with me. Number 2, they don't value the dentistry. So this goes back to that PCS model, building the value in what you're talking about. Number 3, they don't feel listened to. So maybe a patient came in for a chief complaint and you didn't give them a treatment plan for it. Maybe you diagnosed something else instead. No office manager or treatment coordinator. I always believe you have to have somebody in the office that can talk about money because it's hard. No follow-up on treatment plans. If you're not doing follow-ups on plans that you presented, you're losing out. And then you've got to also have a finance option. The more that you can work with a patient, the more treatment you're going to get. So I will say everything starts with iTero. Everything starts with iTero behind the education side. But even from a digital workflow, one of the things that I believe in emotional treatment planning. If you can get somebody emotionally invested into your treatment plan, the cost does not matter. They will pay whatever it is. And so how I do this is I take video testimonials on all my Invisalign patients, and I want people to tell their stories so then I can share it with other patients. And this digital technology actually allows us to truly connect with our patients. And I found that video testimonials creates that emotional connection that people are looking for.
I'm Joy Hensinger. I'm a patient here of Dr. Blocker, and I've got Invisalign treatment that I just finished, and I'm super happy. And my testimonial is for anyone who is straightening their teeth for appearance. That's great, but if you're like me and your primary reason was your teeth didn't touch, you couldn't eat properly, this is amazing. I'm going to have a steak dinner tonight because I am going to be able to chew food for the first time in years. They touch. And they're straight and they're pretty and they're perfect, and I'm so happy, and thank you. Bye. I'm so glad you're able to. I'm so glad you got to do it. Me too. Thank you.
So when it comes to case acceptance, I try to get that emotional connection, that emotional side. And we actually will do that with our iTero. And one of the features that actually is newer on the Plus series for iTero is you can show a patient an Outcome Simulator Pro. And what that is it shows a patient's face on their simulation. So they can actually see their face on the before and after, and it creates that emotional treatment planning that we want. It creates that moment that will help with case acceptance. The other thing we do is we accept a lot of insurance, and on our morning huddle sheets, this is what they look like. We will have my front desk write an O on anybody that has orthodontic coverage, because if somebody has ortho coverage, you better believe they're getting a scan. Like, why would you not scan this person? They have to have a scan. And so it tells us who we want to scan, and we do utilize this to also get people excited. When I know who has ortho coverage, I can actually make that part of the conversation to when I do educate them and we bring up tooth alignment. We also use this for marketing. I actually market to companies that have good ortho coverage. I will tell you, Nordstrom has $2,000 of ortho coverage. And so if I have to make friends with the Nordstrom employees, I will do it. And so it works, and I try to find opportunities whenever I can. So when it comes to case acceptance and presenting treatment plans, When I do Invisalign treatment plans specifically, I do have a sheet that shows everything that's included. I will show patients that they get their CT scan, they get all their aligners, their refinements. I do include retainers in my fee. I throw in some whitening. I put cosmetic contouring and polishing. I find that the more that you show a patient what they're getting in treatment, in regards to whether it's Invisalign or restorative, make them feel like they're getting a ton of things because it'll build the value behind it. And then it doesn't matter how much it costs because they really see it. I also will have patients, they get 4 options when we present treatment plans. Especially for Invisalign, you can pay in full with a cash discount. You can split your payments half now, half at delivery. You can give me a down payment and then split the rest up over the course of your treatment, or you can do third-party financing. And in the past, we used to show people their options and we would say, what do you think? And people would say, I don't know. Let me go think about it. Let me go ask my husband. And now we say the words, which one works for you? Because when we say which one works for you or which one of these fits into your budget, it forces them to give you an answer. And when they can give you an answer, it shows you a lot about what they can do. We do give them like a folder with information. Everybody loves goodies. And this next one, my office manager taught me. Silence is an exclamation point. Dentists, we are terrible at this. We just keep talking. We just keep talking and talking and talking. And there's been days that I've showed so much on my scanner that I think I overwhelmed the patient. And then I walked out of a hygiene room and I'm like, I probably didn't do that correctly. So you have to present short things, keywords, easy to understand, and then stop talking. Because if you keep talking, you will probably talk yourself out of an opportunity. And like I said, always get your patients excited. Now, I do just want to show you one case. This one case is the big picture for me behind why I believe in what I believe in and how I use my iTero. So this lady came to me severely depressed. She had seen 5 different dentists and orthodontists in Dallas, and she wanted Invisalign treatment, and nobody would do Invisalign on her. And the reason why is she has bone loss on number 25. She has a 9mm pocket. And I told her, I said, you're not an ideal candidate for Invisalign because you've got some severe bone loss here. But I said, if your heart is really set on this and you want to go through this, I will go through this with you. You just have to understand the risks, okay? I said, you might lose this tooth. She said, I don't care if I lose the tooth. I just want to go through treatment. And I was nervous. I made her sign a special consent form that says I might lose this tooth. We slowed down her movements in her clin check and we went through treatment. And 49 weeks later, so under a year, this is what she looked like. She looked amazing. Not only was I able to give her the smile she's always wanted, but that number 25 actually got better with treatment. It went from a 9mm to a 4mm. Why did it get better? Because she was having traumatic occlusion on it. And every time she was biting down, it was causing her to have bone loss. And this is something that we can pick up on our iTero scanner. And so had I turned her away, she would have lost the tooth, 100%. But because I went through treatment with her, I actually saved that tooth for her, and it changed her life forever.
All right, so this is what we started with. This is what we started with. And Lorraine, I'm gonna pan over to you. How exciting. We are so excited with the results. Yay. I know Eddie is here too.
Beautiful.
He's excited. We're now part of our dental family. We can't wait to see the future.
That is nice. Look at that.
So this is the case that was the big picture for me. This is why we scan in hygiene. This is why we have a conversation about clinical stuff with what we see in regards to the bite. And this is why we bring it up on all of our patients. A patient will never walk into hygiene and say, hey, do you think I have a traumatic bite? Like, nobody will ever ask you that. You have to be the one to educate them with iTero, and you have to be the one to bring it up. But this is something that she will remember until the day she dies. This is something that was so powerful and changed her life forever. And so when it comes to treatment planning, I teach this. Sell the problem you solve, not the product. We do not sell Invisalign treatment. We do not sell restorative treatment. We more so focus on the problem that we solve. We improve confidence. We give better oral health. We transform your whole smile. When you start talking about it from that direction, patients will pick it up a lot faster than just promoting a product. So ultimately, we would love to close every single case that we present. But what I will tell you is not every case does close, and you have to be okay with that. If you present 100 Invisalign treatment plans from an iTero scan, and 80 people say no, but 20 people say yes, that's 20 more than you had before. And so you just have to get comfortable with it, change your verbiage sometimes, and figure out what's working for you. Now, I didn't learn all of this the easy way. I made my own fair share of mistakes when it came to treatment planning in regards to Invisalign. I used to wait for a ClinCheck check to come back, and then I would try and close a case. And I will tell you that does not work. You have to close a case in front of your iTero when the excitement is the highest. Do not wait for a ClinCheck check to come back and then try. I also used to require a large down payment. Now, like I said, most of my Invisalign comes out of hygiene. And the last thing people think is when they go to a hygiene appointment, they don't think they're leaving with Invisalign. So nobody's going to give me $2,000 for a down payment. I accept low down payments, and I'm willing to work with my patients. No excitement. We talked about talking in circles. That's knowing when to stop talking, giving the patient an out. That's saying which one of these options work for you. You force them to give you an answer. Not connecting, we talked about, and then no finance options. I've been furniture shopping for a while for my house, and if you've ever been into a furniture store recently, they do things a little bit differently. They don't tell you how much a couch is anymore. They will tell you, hey, this couch is $20 a month. And you're like, great, how much is the couch? But people don't care. People want to know how much it is a month. People want monthly amounts, and they want to be able to break payments up. That's all people care about. So you have to have an option that will let patients do that for you. And I will tell you, it's scary the first time you start being flexible and working with patients, but the more you work with patients, the more treatment you're going to get, both from Invisalign and restorative side. And it all starts with iTero. So when it comes down to education with iTero, the first time you say something to somebody, it's heard. The second time they recognize that. They're like, okay, I've heard this before, but it takes 3 times for somebody to truly learn something. And so don't get discouraged if you are scanning and you're presenting and people are saying no. Sometimes it takes them a few times. We utilize our time lapse. We keep scanning in hygiene. And we will scan even if somebody says I'm not interested, I'm still scanning because we don't scan for Invisalign. We scan to see what's going on in our patients' mouths. We want to use it for education. And so keep doing it, and I promise you it will make an impact. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things just to close this out. First is you'll be amazed at what you attract when you start believing in what you deserve. A lot of doctors don't believe in themselves, and they think that this is going to be really hard. And I'm all about the law of attraction. Whatever you put out is what you're going to get back. And truly, you've got to put out there that you can do this. You can be successful, and it will change your life in a very short period of time. So for those that watched Game of Thrones or House of Dragon, here's a dragon reference for you. I had a dinosaur egg. It hatched. I had 1 iTero. Then I had 2, and now I have 3 dragons. I have the mother of iTeros. But a lot of people ask me, how do you know that you're ready for your 2nd or your 3rd scanner? How do you know? And truly, I wasn't financially ready for my 2nd one when I decided to make the leap, but I had this vision and I knew I wanted to incorporate scanning as much as I could. And so I just dove right in and took the risk, and I will tell you it paid off so fast. When I got my 2nd scanner, that's when we really took off, when we could scan every single hygiene patient plus do all the restorative, and it changed my life forever. So I love this one. It says, a year from now, you will wish you had started today. A year is going to go by regardless of the decisions that you make. Where do you see yourself in a year from now? A lot of us, the year flies by and we're maybe saying the exact same thing that you said this time last year. And so you have to just take the risk, and I promise you the reward is worth it. So I'm going to end with this. Does your PVS impressions do all that? I don't think so. Your PVS impressions could never do that. And so iTero is so powerful for everything we do in our office, from Invisalign, from restorative, and from hygiene education. As soon as you implement it into your digital workflows, you will see your practice truly transform in front of you. Now, I did want to end this with this video, and this is perfect timing. Last year in Vegas at the Align GP Summit, I was given the opportunity of closing out the entire conference. And so I wanted to talk about iTero and how truly the impact has changed my life. But I could sit up here and tell you, changed my life forever. But what you don't realize is it's changing thousands of dentists' lives every single day. And so before my speech, I actually texted a whole bunch of dentists and I said, send me a picture of you with your iTero if it has made a difference for you. And I got so many photos that I put them together into this final video. So digital, especially digital with iTero, that's the answer to all of your questions and all of your problems. So with that, we've got 5 minutes. If we have any questions, how did we do out there?
Excellent. Lots of snaps coming in. Uh-oh, I have an echo.
I can hear you. You're great.
I have an echo on my own. I'll just have to ignore myself. Fabulous presentation. Amazing energy. Thank you so much, Dr. Blocker. I said it wrong at the beginning of this.
Okay.
You should have corrected me. Really informative. Thank you so much. I know that a lot of our members will certainly benefit from listening to you and the education that you provided. And I think it was just genius how you brought up a lot of the barriers to implementing anything new in your practice. It can be a huge challenge. And so I appreciate you sharing how you and your team overcame those obstacles.
Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions if people have some, but thank you guys for having me. I'm happy I could close out your summit this way.
Yeah, I think everybody's, that was a great way to send everybody off into a happy Friday happy hour.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for having me. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. You have a new Instagram follower, so keep the content coming. We appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, Dr. Blocker.
Bye.